that was definitely... Can this truck go away? Like, I'm filming here, truck. Like, you really have to stop right in front of my house. Hello everyone, my name is Ingrid and this is Ingrid Reads a Lot. As you probably saw on the title, today I want to talk to you guys about House of Flame and Shadow, a Crescent City novel by Sarah J. Maas. I read this in the month of February, and as I mentioned in my wrap-up, I didn't want to talk about this book there because I have so many things to say. I figured it deserves its own video. I'm gonna set it here because this is a very long book. Actually, how many pages is this book? 835 pages. Let's put it over there. Let me get comfy here because we got lots to talk about. I am going to start with my overall impressions of this book. And I also have to tell you guys that this is definitely going to be spoiler filled. Not just for this book, but for Sarah J. Maas's other series, because as you may know or not know, the multiverse or whatever you want to call it of Sarah J. Maas's books have merged in this one book, so they're kind of related. I don't think there's going to be a lot of heavy spoilers for A Court of Thorns and Roses, but definitely some spoilers for Throne of Glass and obviously A Crescent City. So spoiler filled, just keep that in mind. So if you haven't read this, if you haven't read any of her books and you plan to, then I wouldn't watch this video. Also, just a quick mention, I just decided that I will be taking part in a read-along for the entire Sarah J. Maas verse or Maas verse. It's gonna be basically over a year of us reading the books in the series, in all the series together, and having live shows on Bethany's channel. I will link all the information on the read along down below. Bethany just made an announcement video today, which prompted me to want to make this video and talk about this book, because I know I was gonna do it, but I just kind of been lazy to film. Yes, I will link the video down below so that you guys, if you want to take part in the readathon with us, we are going to be diving into the entire universe of Sarah J. Maas. Sarah J. Maas is definitely one of my favorite authors, and I say that because I read every book that she puts out. Do I absolutely love everything she writes? No, but I do think that her world is pretty awesome, or her worlds are pretty awesome, and so we will be reading the whole thing. I will link it down below. That's all for information. So let's get into this book. My overall thoughts on this book. I need to stop moving my hands. I'm gonna hold my hands down here. But I talk with my hands, so excuse me. But my overall thoughts on this book were positive, because I will say that after I finished House of Sky and Breath, which is the second book in this trilogy, I was not impressed at all. That was definitely my least favorite Sarah J. Maas novel of all time, because that book did a lot of things I didn't enjoy. And I should say that I felt like this book, all the criticisms I had for House of Sky and Breath, this book did better. One of those things was that House of Sky and Breath had a lot of schmexy scenes. Not that I mind, because I feel like A Court of Mist and Fury, which is the second book in the Court of Thorns and Roses, also does a lot of sexy scenes. It's not in the beginning, so it's not like fast burn, but definitely has a lot of them, and I loved it in that book. So it's not the scenes themselves that I don't like, it's the fact that all this plot is happening and they need to take a break to like include a sexy scene. It almost feels like it's unnecessary. That's what I didn't like about that book. There was a lot of them. This book barely had any, and the ones that were in the book felt like they were there to solidify the bonds that these characters have with each other, and to like further plots that we have been seeing since the beginning of the series. But definitely, if you read Sarah J. Maas for the like sexy scenes, I don't think you're gonna be very impressed with this book, because there's barely any, and that's definitely not what the focus of this book is. And then another thing that I didn't like in House of Sky and Breath that I think improved a lot in this book was the fact that in House of Sky and Breath, they're all looking for this one kid. His name is Emil, and obviously I already told you guys, lots of spoilers. They're all looking for Emil. And all the power players in this novel, right, in this series, are looking for this kid, and everybody's like, including Bryce and everyone, Hunt, all these things happen in House of Sky and Breath, and then at the end, towards the end, Bryce is like, oh, I know where Emil has been this whole time. I hate him. And that drove me nuts. It was done in such a way that was like so convenient, and it was kind of like they were all looking for this kid, and all of a sudden Bryce has known all along where he was. And it just bothered me. It just irked me, because it was like, it almost seemed like lazy writing. And I should and I feel bad saying that because I love her books, but I really hated House of Sky and Breath. Obviously, this book didn't have that here. There is a ton of world building in this book. Since the worlds have collided at the beginning of this book, you see Bryce in the ACOTAR world with Nesta and Azriel. They don't speak each other's languages, and it's a whole, like, it almost feels like it could be its own book if Sarah really wanted to, like just Bryce in ACOTAR. And I will say that was definitely my favorite part of the book, was having her interact with those characters. That could be a me thing where I really like ACOTAR and the ACOTAR world, so I just couldn't get enough. Like, honestly, she could have done anything when they were there and I would have loved it. I would have ate it up. That's where we start this book, but we also get a lot of world building about the Asteri and how they came to be in this world and how they go about destroying other worlds. The ancestors of the ACOTAR world, kind of like having to defeat them and all these different things. And I enjoyed that so much. I loved all the world building and how interesting it all was. And that was part of the reason why I want to reread Sarah J. Maas's universe, because I feel like when I first read it, right, I didn't pick up on any of the Easter eggs that could be throughout the series of these worlds colliding. Honestly, I really didn't, because I ate them up so fast. At the time when I first read them, like, it didn't even cross my mind that the world would collide. Yeah, that's why I kind of want to do this reread with everyone, because I want to be able to like go back and pick up the Easter eggs. And then more into my overall thoughts, from House of Sky and Breath, I still don't enjoy Ethan or Tharian. I think that their storyline is not very interesting and they feel like filler to me. And I feel bad saying that, but I don't enjoy them. The one thing that I think this book also did better was the fact that even though you got Ethan and Tharian's perspective and I didn't really care, it didn't feel dragged out, because the chapters themselves, like within the chapter, you were jumping from character to character. It almost felt like a TV show where you're watching and 1 second you're with one character and then it jumps to something else. And so it didn't feel heavy or like dragging to me when I was reading this. And reading from perspectives of people that I don't really care for, it was fast. I liked it. And this book, even though it's over 800 pages, was a very fast read for me. And I feel like Sarah J. Maas, all of her books are like that for me. I think it's just her writing style. But yes, that was another thing that I enjoyed. And I feel like this book did better than my last book. And I don't know if it was because I wasn't enjoying the book like by itself, the whole thing, like House of Sky and Breath, that I felt like it dragged so much, or it was just that I felt that Tharian and Ethan's chapters were also very long. Another thing that you should know about me is that I enjoy Crescent City, House of Earth and Blood, the first book, but I don't love Bryce as a character. And I haven't kind of had that problem with Sarah J. Maas's characters. Like, I like Feyre and I like Selena like a lot. Both of those characters, even though they do things that sometimes can be like, ugh, you know, I still enjoy them as characters. I don't love Bryce. I feel like she is supposed to be that character that like doesn't give an F about anything, and she's prickly and she tells you how it is, and it's just, that's just her personality. She talks back and stuff like that. But it almost feels like it's trying too hard. She's trying too hard to be that way, and I don't quite enjoy her, because I do like a badass character. So I don't know what it is about Bryce specifically. Like, I can't pinpoint exactly why I don't love her, but I think it's because it makes me feel like she's trying too hard. Hunt, as a male, like the male main character, I don't like him. I think he is just completely boring and there's just nothing to him. So much so that in House of Sky and Breath, or House of Earth and Blood, when we first get in contact with Adius, one of the princes of hell, I thought that we were going to pull a Court of Thorns and Roses, where like the first book and the love interest is not going to be the same as the second book. I really hoped that Bryce would get with one of the princes of hell. Because I just think Hunt is so boring. I just don't like him. And so them as characters, I'm just like, meh, whatever. But I still enjoy this book a lot because I like the world. I will say that I quite love Rune and Lydia as characters, Bryce's brother. And I wish they were the main characters. and I feel bad saying that, but I do like them quite a lot. So that they were definitely the characters like in this book that were the saving grace for me. Anyway, let's talk about things that I think didn't, like little things that kind of irked me in this book, because obviously I gave, well, I didn't say this in the beginning, but I gave this book a 4 out of 5 stars. I still enjoyed it. I think it was so much better than House of Sky and Breath, but it definitely wasn't a 5 stars. One of the things that because me and Roger read this as a buddy read, one of the things that Roger mentioned, and I at the time when I was reading it too, I said, what the heck? When Rune shoots Lydia in the leg because he wants to stop her from getting herself hurt, and I just can't. Like, bro, you really shot her on the leg. Like, come on. And it just seems so out there that I just chuckle. Like, it doesn't like bother me completely, because I expect that sort of like over dramatic acts of love from Sarah J Maas, but this one definitely took the crown for me in terms of ridiculousness, because we've had things like that happen with other characters in other books, but I feel like that one was definitely like over the top. And Lydia definitely forgave Rune way too quickly. It was just really funny. I just like could not. I just couldn't. Oh, another thing that I thought was really funny was that Bryce, in order to save her mom and her father, she puts them in Akatar because she knows that Nesta will protect them. She just threw them over there and left Emil, the kid they had adopted from House of Sky and Breath, like just there, like with everyone. You know, she just left him behind. And I thought, okay, that's very nice of you as a sister. And I'm like, in my head, I was just thinking like, wow, like that really shows how much she cares for the adopted brother, because she kind of just left him behind. And then when her mother like chastises her for it, she's like, I knew he would be safe with my friends. And I'm just like, okay. Anyway, I thought that was funny too, and kind of dumb. I don't know. I just thought it was like, again, it just feels kind of convenient because she did it because she was able to get her mom and dad away from everyone. Emil was kind of just left behind. It is what it is, you know? And then another thing, some other things I enjoyed about this book, which I just thought of, and I keep like bouncing back and forth, but I really enjoyed Lydia's character being fully explored. The fact that she has children, and that is why she has been doing all these things, because she wants to protect her children and she gave them up to protect them. I thought that was such a good twist, because when this book first started and we see Rune, Hunt, and the Hellhound being tortured by the Asteri, and Lydia comes in, and we know from the past book that she is Agent Daybright, and her and Rune have had this like relationship in like mind speak or whatever. In my head, I'm like, how is she going to redeem herself in his eyes? Like, how is she going to be like able to explain away all the horrible things she's done as the Hind? Like, there's no way that's going to be explained well. And it was. I thought that the twist of her having children and her doing all these things to protect her children, I think as humans we can empathize with that, and that I don't have children, but I'm aware that people that have children, good parents, would do anything for their children. Another thing that I enjoyed a lot was the fact that Nesta and Bryce have a like friendship, and I think that's definitely gonna, hopefully, I'm hoping that it's gonna be explored in future books, where they formed this unwilling truce between them, and the fact that Nesta trusts Bryce. She trusted her to give her the mask, and Bryce trusted Nesta with her parents. And so I think that we're gonna explore that further, because A Court of Silver Flames sort of set up for all of the things that happen in this book. You know, with Nesta being able to wield the mask and all these different things. And then Bryce left everything with Nesta. In the next book we get from Akatar, which I think will be centered around Elaine. And I feel like her, okay, now I'm getting sidetracked, but I feel like her love interest is going to be Azriel and not Lucian, who is Elaine's mate. I'm hoping. If that doesn't happen, it'll crush me, because Azriel needs someone to love. Like, he just been so hurt. Bryce left everything with Nesta because she trusts her and she knows that she's gonna need it for whatever happens next. And I am in love with where these books are going. And then there were some things that I was kind of curious about. There was a lot in this book that was left unfinished, and definitely Ethan now being the Prime and sort of like this kindling budding relationship he has with one of his wolves, and then Tharian is now married to one of Rune's friend's sister, and she went into the Viper Queen's territory to save one of her friends, And I think there's gonna be another book in the series for sure, because there's so many things that were left unanswered. And then the Viper Queen, like, what is her deal? Like, what is her end game? You know, that was another thing that I'm like, this entity is just here and everybody's sort of like afraid of her and she does whatever she wants. I'm wondering what is her deal gonna be. Curious about that. Oh, something else I loved was how Bryce and Rune killed their dad together. That was such a good family bonding moment, because that guy was horrible to both Bryce, but especially to Rune. It was just great. I thought that scene was great, and it gave me like goosebumps. You know, when you're like reading or watching something that's like so good and you're like, oh my god, so good. Okay, let's jump into things that I think, some things that I'm predicting and I don't know if I'm gonna be right. And that's part of the reason I wanted to make this video, so that I could have it in evidence that I thought these things. Maybe I'm wrong, maybe not, but we'll see. This book has a lot of connection between ACOTAR and Crescent City, but not a lot of Throne of Glass. Like, we hear a mention of Fae having more of like elemental abilities. That makes sense, right? Because that was the one connection we had. And Lydia is also like a firebringer, like Aelin was. And so that was the connection we got. That was it. But I have a feeling, and hear me out, I have a feeling that the Princes of Hell are the Vogue that were in Throne of Glass. The reason why I think that is because they're described the same way. They seem to be very ruthless, right? Because the Asteri, which were the big bad in the Crescent City series, were scared of the Princes of Hell. And originally there are 7 princes, but we only see 3 helping Bryce. So where are the other 4? And my thoughts are that the other 4, or 2, I think, or 1, I don't remember how many actually went to the Throne of Glass world, but I feel like that's them. I think at least 2, right? Because there was one inside the king, and then there was one in Duke Parrington. So at least 2 of them were in the Throne of Glass world. The reason why I thought that was because they're kind of described the same way. Like, when I was reading this book and they were describing the Princes of Hell, it was similar to how the Vogue were described in a Throne of Glass series. That's one of my predictions for this, is that we will get further connections between all 3 worlds. I'm excited for that, because I think that even though the Princes of Hell helped Bryce, it could easily be for the fact that they wanted to get the Asteri out of the way so that now they can take over the world. Like the enemy of my enemy is my friend kind of thing. I'm glad that at the end of the book, Bryce still closes the portal between Hell and her world, because I'm like, don't leave that portal open, because you don't know what's going to happen. I don't think Adius is a bad character. Like, I don't think he's bad, but I don't know about his other brothers. I do hope we get more from them, especially because I think Adius was one of my favorite characters too, especially in the whole series, like throughout the whole series. So I'm really curious about him, but I do think that they're the Vogue that are in Throne of Glass, or were, because they're not there anymore. I'm just so excited, because now I'm thinking that the witches from Throne of Glass, like Manon and them, they're the offspring between the Vogue and Fae, right? That's how they're described in the world. And I'm like, I'm thinking of all the possibilities of this book, of this series kind of merging, and I'm so excited to finish it. But yeah, there was lots of things left open in this book, and I think definitely we're gonna get a 4th House of something, House of Water or whatever, because that's the only one left, right? Oh, and another thing that I thought was like super convenient in this book, which it didn't bother me that much, but the fact that, what's her name? Hypatia? Is that her name? The witch that is now the head of House of Flame and Shadow, that she was able to create the antidote for the Asteri parasite so quickly. Literally the first time she tried, she was able to create an antidote. It was awful convenient that she was able to create an antidote literally first time she tried. But anyway, I liked that. That was another thing about the series that I enjoyed, is the fact that it merges kind of like magic with science almost, because the way that they killed the Asteri was by throwing them in the black hole. That was kind of cool. All of this series has like a lot of machinery and guns, and then when Bryce is in the ACOTAR world and they grab her phone, they're all like, what the heck is this? Like, how do we use this? What is this for? I just thought that was kind of cheeky and funny to throw in there. But yeah, I think I've talked long enough, and I've told you guys all of the bigger things I want to tell you. So yeah, that's it. I wanted to kind of gush about this book and say that I quite enjoyed it. I'm happy how this ended because I really didn't like the second book. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Let me know what you thought of House of Flame and Shadow. I'm sure there's a lot of people that didn't enjoy it, but let me know in the comments how you felt about it and any of your predictions. And if you want to join us in the read along, I encourage you to do so. I think it'll be really fun, especially kind of going back, knowing everything we know now. If you guys have anything else to say, leave it down in the comments, and I will see you on the next one. Goodbye.